Welcome to the Hit Like a Girl podcast. This is High Tea with Grace, where we spill the tea on HIT. Today, I'm honored to welcome Rachel Marano, co-founder of Pivot Point Consulting. She's a seasoned entrepreneur and health IT executive that brings nearly 20 years of hands-on experience implementing HRs with healthcare organizations and even more than that. So thanks so much for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you for having me, Grace. Happy to be here.
We're super excited to learn from you. So tell us a little bit about your backstory. What led you to this particular healthcare consulting career path?
Well, after graduating from University of Iowa, go Hawks, with a degree in computer science, that's when I actually started my healthcare IT journey. I began at Cerner Corporation back in 2001 and really started out as an analyst and was working my way through learning the fundamentals of healthcare IT and really cut my teeth in the Cerner space. Eventually, I moved on and went to Advocate Healthcare, which was one of my clients, and really learned about the healthcare IT space from a hospital perspective and seeing it from that lens. And I was a team lead there and did a lot of implementation over the years, implementing Cerner into those hospitals, and eventually shifted into the consulting space and wanted to get into Epic and wanted to get certified with Epic, saw that Epic was really moving up in the industry and there was a lot of different dynamics on the Epic side. And so that was really interesting to me to kind of see the differences between Cerner and Epic and how those implementation methodologies differed. And from there, I was, wanting to get into leadership and, worked my way through analyst, trainer, manager, director in the Epic space and was really a road warrior, traveling all over the country, working, as a leader and working through implementation in a variety of different types of hospitals. So it was really interesting, seeing that growth and seeing that the evolution of the industry, with the Epic lens versus Cerner. I got very involved in HIMSS and eventually became the president for the Illinois chapter, the Greater Chicago chapter.
Wow.
Which was great. I had a variety of different positions in the HIMSS community over the years, program chair and sponsorship chair, and met a lot of different people in the industry and networked. And learned, a lot more about healthcare IT from a HIMSS perspective. And so, I really had different angles and perspectives of the industry and got excited about the idea of being an entrepreneur and starting my own business. My mom was an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. So I grew up in a family of folks that had those ideas. And so, that's really where Pivot Point came from. And we launched in April of 2011, founded it with a partner, David Scott at the time, and actually launched it out of my apartment in Chicago.
Wow.
Very, very humble beginnings, no question. And 5 years later, merged the business into Vaco, which is now the parent company that we're a part of. And it has been a rocket ship ride ever since. So that's
amazing.
Been the backstory.
Wow, very cool. And it's so interesting to have both that EHR implementation side and, from the EHR vendor side, and then also from the hospital health system side. Very, very interesting. So I'm interested in hearing about your company. What do you do now? And then also, did COVID-19 impact your organization? And if so, how did it impact it?
Yeah, well, our company now has grown immensely over the last 4 years, really over the last 10, almost 11 years, but really started out primarily around EHR implementation, mostly focused in Epic and Cerner, which were the things I knew and could sell. My business partner, David Scott, he was more focused on the payer side and an advisory, so we did a lot in that space. And, it was the heyday of meaningful use. There was a lot of implementation work going on, and there was a lot of need, in the industry, clients wanting strong resources that understood these areas. And we were always very focused on bringing quality and being a strategic partner and being a trusted advisor to all of our clients. And then over the years, we really wanted to focus on expansion, but leaning into always having EHR as the fundamental, but moving into other relevant areas using the same methodology, the same model, kind of rinse and repeating with new and interesting areas where we could meet the client where they needed us. And so, yeah, with the merger with Vaco, who is our parent company now, it was a really incredible integration. David Scott went on to retire, and I have a new business partner, Matt Simpson, who was actually the founder of Vaco Healthcare. And Vaco, phenomenal company rooted in accounting and technology primarily, and was looking to really launch into healthcare. And Matt Simpson did that with the Vaco Healthcare brand, and through the acquisition with Pivot Point and another company called Graythorn, the combination of those three businesses became Pivot Point Consulting, a Vaco company, which is now, what we are. So, that was fantastic. And we were really able to continue our growth in EHR and advisory, and then add quite a few more practices on over the last half a decade, to include analytics, data and analytics, ERP, managed services, so on the outsourcing side, and a variety of other areas that continue to be opportunistic and synergistic with our EHR brand.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, we were really humbled to win Best in Class in 2020. It was the overall services award, top overall services award. And it's
congratulations. That's a big one. Yeah.
I have a whole class story I'll probably tell you another day, but it was always our goal to become a best in class organization. And our North Star is always becoming class ranked and rated in all the different categories that we focus. And in addition, some good news, I also want to tell you that we won number 6 modern healthcare's best places to work. We got number 6 for that.
Wow, that's a tough one to get because that's up against healthcare organizations themselves too.
Yeah. And we were really humbled and excited to receive that. We've focused very heavily on culture and growth and development internally, and through the pandemic. To be getting that kind of award, after 2 years of a pandemic, it was incredible. So
yes, truly. I love to hear about all these successes. But another thing that I also like to hear is about the funniest mistakes too. Do you happen to have a funny mistake that you have from when you first started? And can you tell us what lesson you learned from that as an entrepreneur woman in healthcare IT?
The funniest mistake I made in the early days of Pivot Point that taught me a valuable lesson was really about balancing my work life and my family life. As a mom, that can be challenging, right? And at the time, I was 9 months pregnant with my first child, and it was scheduled for a C-section. And quite literally, until the moment I was being wheeled into the OR, I was on the phone, texting, calling, taking calls, running day-to-day things of the business, which, really not the right thing to do. And I think it really highlights how much and how often women feel the need to juggle the personal and professional responsibilities and, responsibilities at home, being a mother, and, not super proud of the fact that I was doing business while, almost giving birth. But I think it taught me a lot about how I need to manage my time and prioritize what's most important. And I think ultimately it changed how my perspective. Definitely, second child didn't do that, but it was early days of Pivot Point. There was a lot going on, but people still to this day kind of make fun of me for that one.
Oh, I'm sure all of us moms, all of us hip moms have stories like that. It's a lot of work to break the glass ceiling. So you got to take the call if you got to take the call, even if you're in labor. Hey, you get a little break sometimes between the contractions. So I know none of us are really able to achieve success by ourselves. We really need help along the way. Is there a particular person you are really grateful for that helped you get where you are now?
Absolutely. This is an easy one. My mother has been a huge influence in my life. She played so many roles for me growing up, not only as a mother, but as an entrepreneur, and honestly, someone that's just truly superwoman, superhuman. I don't know how she did it all, but she did. And she's a hairdresser. She had a large spa and salon
Wow.
One of the largest in Chicago at the time. And she was running her business, actually over 40 years now. She still has it. She's in her 70s. She's still running it. But she raised me, and she volunteered for Sunday school, and she was a Girl Scout troop leader. And, she did it all with a smile. And, I'll probably get a little choked up here because she's just such a wonderful person. But I think, even during COVID, with her business, she was forced to really reinvent the services. Everything was shut down, hair salons. It was a very different experience for businesses like that during that time. And she got creative and conducted virtual visits and sold product at home, and, tried to stay relevant in that market. And you'll hear me say that because I think it's such an important term in our industry, in any industry. But
yeah, I mean, your name is Pivot Point, and sounds like you really taught you how to pivot, and
got it. It's all about pivoting. But I think she's a creative force who has taught me so much about, being a successful entrepreneur. And she inspires a lot of my leadership style every day. And, I love her, and I immensely admire her in every possible way. So
that's awesome. What a great testament. So nice to have someone that you admire so close to you, literally someone in your family that has been through the entrepreneurial journey, has figured out how to pivot, kind of inspiring you throughout your life. There was an Ernst & Young report. Is it Ernst & Young? Sorry.
Yeah, Ernst & Young. Yes.
Okay, sorry. 3, 2, 1. That's amazing to have your mom be the one that's giving you that inspiration too throughout your whole life as an entrepreneur. A recent Ernst & Young report said that only about 20% of funded companies have women founders, which is just shocking, but also not that shocking too. This reflects, really great historical progress, obviously, from where we were 100 years ago, but also a ton of more work to be done to empower women to create companies. In your opinion, what is currently holding women back from founding companies in healthcare? And is that any different than other industries?
I don't think it's any different in other industries, honestly. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in other industries, honestly, but after being a founder for the last decade plus, I still find that while men are what I would call expected founders, women are unexpected founders. And this can hamper the confidence of women, who run companies or want to run companies or would even consider, founding a company. I think we really need to change this perception and increase the visibility of women in these types of roles, and expanding our networks and supporting women founders and the notion of that, and encouraging, I think, all leaders, both men and women, to build and nurture professional and personal networks as broadly as possible to really shift those perceptions. And I hope that happens. I really do.
Yeah. Are there any myths that you'd like to dispel about being a founder? Are there any myths that you hear out there that you're like, that's kind of ridiculous?
Back to the mom concept, for me, I think the biggest myth is that you can't be a successful founder and a mom, or you can't really do all of these different things. And, I have 4 kids and I'm running a high growth business, and it is possible that you can make space for both, which I am very much still trying to figure out every day. But it's not easy, and it's something I work on. But I think it's important to know that it's very possible, and to not be discouraged by the fact that as women and mothers, we do have responsibilities in certain ways, but that we can balance these loads.
What are some things you need to thrive and succeed as a woman founder?
Woman or man, I think, founder period. I think you need to hire leaders who are smarter than you. And I have made a career of this. If you look at Pivot Point, these are brilliant minds across the leadership team, across the whole company. And everyone has a natural skill set. I have a natural skill set. Others do as well. But really being able to recognize and cultivate an environment that elevates this concept and embraces it, right? Yeah. And it's been said that you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I think it's really important that you be intentional about hiring your leaders, with that concept in mind. I think challenging yourself. I'm a seeker. I've always gravitated to thinking about, what challenges me? How do I be a better person? How do we incorporate things into the business that are going to help people grow and thrive, and encouraging, your teams and your leaders to do the same, and nurturing that concept throughout the business. I think being self-aware is honestly one of the most important things. And again, something I'm working on. My leadership team, we all work on, we talk about these things. We're very open about it, understanding emotional intelligence and leaning into the concepts of EQ, and improving your communication, and really transforming yourself and leading by example. And being open, being a critical thinker. I think these are the most important conversations, is when you're listening to your leaders and you're mining for conflict, and you're asking questions, right? These are things that are going to cultivate a strong culture. And obviously, pivoting, that's our concept, is finding that pivot point and making that transition and shift. COVID, presented that to the world, and very much in healthcare, the most, honestly, in healthcare in so many ways. And so being adaptable, we had to adapt. And at Pivot Point, we did a lot of different things to adapt, but this caught us by surprise, and it changed a lot of things in a lot of ways. And I think having an adaptable mindset and leading in that way is so important.
That's amazing. As a woman of influence in healthcare, leading up Pivot, you never know what your idea could trigger.
Someday when I retire, the dreams of what this could look like. I think throughout my career, I've mentored several women leaders, and have found that one of my strongest skills in helping others is helping them think through how they could take their idea to market, or how they can take an idea and put it into action. That is something that I've been able to do. I come up with an idea and I make it happen. And I think that's what being a strong leader is all about, and never saying no, and finding a solution, right? And I think today it's never been easier to start a business, but it's also never been harder to scale a business. And I think marketing is so critical in scaling businesses, and getting your message and the words out. And I think for me, what I would like to do someday is start an incubator that really supports women that want to start a business and be a founder. And it's complicated launching something out of thin air. And really leaning into underserved communities where they might not have that support, and single women, single mothers, potentially, where might be more challenging to launch something, and financially challenging. So that is definitely an area that I've been inspired to potentially do in the future. And I guess it would be a movement, essentially, in helping women to see this path forward and take advantage of all that is being an entrepreneur.
What a cool idea. I really love that. Well, I'm on your side, and you just
all right.
Some women to invest in it. So sure. I'm wondering, before I forget, did you happen to bring some tea with you today?
I do have some tea here, yes.
Oh, and I love your Pivot Point mug.
Oh, thank you.
Tell me the story about it.
So this is actually a throwback, and it's Pivot Point's original colors were red and black and white. And so as we started to merge into Vaco, we adopted the sailboat, which is, the concept of, navigating into the future, and very much Pivot Point.
Oh, absolutely. Navigation. If you don't pivot when you're sailing, you don't go forward at all.
I guess you're right. We don't. But we now have adopted some new colors, but I love to keep this as a memory of kind of where we started and how we've evolved. And I am drinking, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the type of tea.
Yes, please do.
I'm drinking Bigelow herbal tea, the red raspberry, which is my favorite, but it's caffeine free, because I don't need
nice to do caffeine free in the afternoon. Caffeine in the morning if you do that, and caffeine free in the afternoon.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
That's great.
My mom was a big tea drinker, always has been. She had a whole tea set and the whole thing, and so I really enjoy tea. So I'm excited to drink tea with you today.
Oh, I'm excited to drink tea with you too. Now, before I forget, also, where can our listeners find you online?
So you can find me and Pivot Point at pivotpointconsulting.com. All of our social media handles are there. And we also have a podcast as well called Get to the Point. I also have a similar podcast called Be Heard that features female leaders. So definitely check it out. We've got lots of great thought leadership and content and some insight reports that really look into our viewpoint on the future of healthcare IT.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Grace. I really appreciate being here.
And thank you guys for joining us too. Check out the Hit Like a Girl podcast and website for great information and more great guests, just like Rachel today. Cheers.
Cheers.